In the last few videos there have been one or two complaints that it's a little bit too dark. Better? So today we're trying another thing. I'm experimenting a lot, not just with lighting but also with content. Today I've got this. This is my big book of stupid from years ago, back when I was a lowly AM. And I didn't know how anything worked, so I wrote it all down in a book of stupid. I was actually told to call it a book of stupid. It wasn't a malicious thing. It was... Anyway. And I don't use it anymore because I know everything now. So not true. But what I've done instead is I've written some things down. This is going to be the whiskies that I bought for the pub in... What was last month? May. In May. So that's... And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the whiskies and my decisions behind them sometimes, or how I found them if I've tried them, or how people have reacted to them. And there's some unusual things. So it's not just going to be like, oh, I bought an Ardbeg 10 against this month. God, what am I like? It's some interesting stuff. And it gives you an insight on kind of like, you know, my professional side of things. It's fun. So we're going to stick off. We're going to start off. Those are words. Jesus, that thing is bright. I have a new light. I got some lights from years ago that were like a cheap sort of bulb situation. This is not that. That is like having the sun in the room. I feel like I'm going to explode. It's got an inbuilt fan. It's very quiet, but it's got a bloody inbuilt fan in it. It's just, ugh. I'm not going to lie, this does feel quite pro, actually. So I'm glad you guys all pulled me up on it, because... pretty happy with this, I'm not going to lie. So, we're going to start off with the first one. This is Archer's 60. This was an interesting one. I put Archer's 60 for some reason. It's not that at all. It's Archer's Light is the name of the whiskey, and it's a Glenlivet blend from the 60s. That's why I put 60. So this was a fun one, in that I go on auctions to buy some whiskey sometimes, and I try and find a bargain wherever I can. I'm not interested in getting rare malts behind the bar or any of that kind of stuff. I'm looking for the stuff that people are leaving alone because they can't hide it under the floorboards and buy a mansion in 5 years, but that might be of some interest to drinkers, and this was one of them. This was something that I was like, okay, this looks odd, and it was literally just getting ignored. It was just being left alone. So I think I bought it for £18 or something like that. Full bottle, no damage, full fill level on it, everything was fine. And yeah, £18. Nobody wanted it because it wasn't, you know, worth a castle or something. So I put it behind the bar, and the response was incredible, because basically I've got a bottle from the 60s behind the bar, and I was flogging it for a £5 because I paid fuck all for it. So yeah, people were like, wait, you've got a whiskey from the 60s for a £5? If yeah, I want to give that a go. And it did not last very long at all, and I had a chance to try it. It was lovely, absolutely delicious. I was actually thinking at the time that I might do another wild whiskey, because I did film a little bit for it, so I'll just put it in here instead, so I'm not like repeating myself. But it was, I mean, that's a Glenlivet blend, and it knocks spots off of modern Glenlivet, in my opinion. This stuff was beautiful, very rich in the malt. There was a lovely, just fresh fruit note to it, apple and pear, you know, your classic notes. But you had lots of like, sort of like a mulchy Weetabix, digestive biscuits dunked in tea kind of notes to it. It was just really nice. Sort of teach people today how to do a good blend, really, because I mean, I would imagine that a blend of that sort of provenance, you'd be paying a lot more money for it. Maybe it was worth more back in the day. I doubt it. But yeah, just a fun little find, a bit of a bargain, that one. And people liked it, and I liked it too. And it had a really kitsch label as well. I'm not going to lie, the green and yellow did help sell it for me. Next on my list is Blair Moor, not to be confused with Glenmore, because if I'd managed to get a bottle of Glenmore for what I paid for this... no, this is... So we're getting into pure malt territory. We're getting into the territory where back in the day they would try and trick you that something was a malt whiskey when it was in fact a blend, and pure malt was one of the ways that they did that. So it's listed on the label as pure malt whiskey, which is very cheeky, very, very cheeky. And you can, I mean, it was the Cardew debacle about 20 years ago, I think it was, that finally called time on pure malt. But I mean, they were getting away with some ridiculous stuff. And you look at this, and at first I was like, is this a malt whiskey? I can't find it. I've never heard of that. And I was like, no, it's not. It's deliberately sort of trying to trick you. The whiskey itself's fine. There seems to be a lot of renditions of this blend. The label looks like it changed every 10 seconds. So trying to find an exact match was a little bit tricky. To the best of my knowledge, it's from the 80s. And people have liked it, you know. It's definitely not had the same reaction as the Archers did. And I say did because the Archers is now gone and the Blairmore has yet to die. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's certainly a curiosity if you want to try something from the 80s. But yeah, it's fine. But there's nothing to write home about on that one. Next on my list, we're no longer alphabetical because we're going all over the place. Ardbeg Inaugural. I bought 2 bottles of this, actually. I did one as a break-even, I did the other one at, it was $5.50 a dram or something like that, so, you know, still cheap. Fucking hell, it's nice. It's really nice. We got through 2 bottles in no time whatsoever. I mean, to be fair, you know, we were basically giving the first one away, but bloody hell, it's good liquid. Really incredible stuff. I was curious how much they were going to be leaning into with the new Isla on the block. The fact that it's a 5-year-old as a first release, not a 3-year-old, automatically, good sign. Also, kind of funny, I suppose, that it has an age statement and the previous youngest Kilchoman tend not to have age statements. It's just funny, I guess. Kilchoman is gorgeous. We'll get onto that next month. But, yeah, a beautiful stuff. Absolutely incredible. The smoke is just very rich, and it's got like a buttered toast, brown sugar kind of quality to it. It's a sweet smoke. It doesn't have many of the... It does still have sort of a degree of medicinal quality to it, but it's nowhere near as pronounced as, like, say, a Laphroaig or a Lagavulin, or even a Kalila, which tends to have a bit more kind of a barbecue-y smoke to it. This is more of a sweet smoke, so it's a difference. And it's just very well put together. It was a beautiful whiskey. It's one of the few times, actually, we've got a regular who he works as a chef, and he has done for about 11 billion years, and he loves his whiskies. He's got an incredible collection at home. Occasionally he brings us some stuff in to try, and we've had some like rare malts and stuff like that. It's fantastic. It's one of the only times I've seen him go back for a second, because normally he'll be like, right, I've tried that, and move on. He was so taken by it, he had a second, and I can't blame him. I tried it, and I was like, that's fantastic stuff. Very excited to see what they do next. Hopefully it doesn't get too overhyped, because therein lieth a danger. Next on the list is Dalwhinnie 16. You can get your hands on this for love nor money for a good wee while. It's the Flora and Fauna, I should clarify. I mean, what do I have to say about Dalwhinnie 16 Flora and Fauna that hasn't already been said? It's fucking gorgeous liquid. I feel like it's quite funny, actually. So we get a lot of our whiskies through Royal Malt Whiskies. The majority, in fact. And it's quite funny because they'd obviously had a lot of people asking for it. So it went from out of stock to available. It was something like 326 bottles because they were like, right, we are getting this in. So there's a healthy stock of that now. But I expect it won't last. It's one of those whiskies that people just, they want to buy it up. Fantastic stuff. I mean, there's nothing that I can say about Dalwhinnie 16 that hasn't already been said by my contemporaries on the internet, so I'll move on. It's beautiful. We've got some Edradours. We're actually going to start with some Edradours, and then we're going to come back to them. There's a reason for that. We're starting with a batch of Edradours. We've got the Edradour 10 straight from the cask. We love an Edradour at the Blazer. We really do. We get in the unchill filtered quite a bit, just because as a 10-year-old Edradour, you can't go too far wrong with it. This was that with sort of like kink gear on, to be honest. Higher ABV, incredibly rich, sort of stewed tea qualities to it. Lovely savouriness to it. Really just like licking a coffee table level of woodiness to it. Potent, threw you around. I mean, it was not a beginner's malt at all, but people adored it. It was only on the bar for like a week, and good reason. I mean, it was a 50cl, so that helped, but incredible whiskey. And that moves us on to the Blechin, is it 12? It's a Blechin 12, straight from the cask. We love a peated whiskey, we love an Edradour, put the two together, can't go too far wrong. This is not my personal favourite of Edradour's output. I like Blechin, but it's not my go-to for kind of like non-Isla Smokies. But I seem to be alone in that one. We can only get about 18 grams out of a 50cl because we're 35ml, and folk were adoring it. Reaction to it was overwhelmingly positive. I didn't actually have any of that. We just the other day actually killed the bottle, so it made it into June just about. But yeah, beautiful whiskey. I'm curious to know actually what people have to say about the straight from the casks. If you've had a go with any of them. We're going to be getting into the wine cask Edradours a little bit later on in this video, so we'll be coming back to Edradour. I also now have an Edradour coffee mug. It's cute AF. It's going to be a bit of a longer video, this, just in case that wasn't already apparent. So we've got a Glen Scotia next. The Glen Scotia Fino 9-year-old limited edition. I don't have a huge amount to say about this. It's been a bit of a struggle, unfortunately. Yeah, I haven't dipped a toe in this one. I haven't really been all that interested, to be honest, in this one. We've sold a few drams out of the bottle, but there seems to be an apathy towards Glen Scotia, or particularly with this bottling anyway. I've had a couple of people seeking out, asking about it. We've had a bit of feedback, and the feedback's been kind of like, it was alright. So I don't have a huge amount to say about this. What I need to do is actually give it a go and get a first-hand account of it, which I have yet to do. But it's not been a particularly fast mover. I don't know if that's a reflection on the quality of the whiskey or just because, well, it's not Springbank, is it? I think we all know my feelings about Springbank, and it's, yeah, I don't hate Springbank for anyone who's new to this, but I have opinions on the hype. But we'll leave that for another day. Next is a Glenburgie. I got a 90s bottling of, I think it's a 90s bottling of Glenburgie. It might actually be a distiller's label and it's a lot newer, but I'm fairly sure it's a 90s bottling. I'm sure if I'm wrong, somebody will correct me, and that's good for the algorithm. So there are actually videos out there, you know, where people deliberately make mistakes, so people are like, that's wrong, and then it's a fun little world we live in, isn't it? I should try that at some point. It's pronounced oinken toinken. There we go. Comment down below how I've pronounced that wrong. I like a Glenburgie. I've tried a few. I've tried a few sort of heavy cask renditions from the likes of like Signatory and stuff like that, and I like it, but I feel like it's sort of wearing a fur coat. This is a bit more of a stripped back one. Really rich wood. It's got a lovely sherry influence to it. It was quite nutty. Sort of a balsa wood kind of a smell. I don't know if anyone's ever like built things out of craft balsa wood when they were a kid. Maybe just me. There was a project in the Cartoon Network magazine about how to make a treehouse from Ed, Edd and Eddy, something that never happened, I'm pretty sure. But for some reason I was obsessed with making this treehouse, and I had PVA glue and balsa wood, so I'm well acquainted with the smell of glue and wood. You know when you think something in your head and it sounds better, and then you say it and you're like, yeah, it's a nice Glenburgie. Let's move on to something I've definitely not tried. Not Harry Potter. Highland Park. Highland Park 18, single cask, London edition number 1. I had a momentary lapse in judgment, and in that momentary lapse of judgment, I bought this bottle. It's way too expensive. Way too expensive. What possessed me to buy this over other things for an equivalent price that would deliver a lot more? I could never tell you. It sits on the bar now in its massive fancy wooden box, and I look at it and I'm like, I paid £300 for this bottle. X that. What in God's name was I thinking? Despite this, we have managed to sell a couple of drams out of it. But the reaction so far has been, yeah. I'm coming around to Highland Park. I think I've talked about the cask strength batch 4, beautiful whiskey. Even the Highland Park 12, I tried it about 6 months ago again, because I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to take a dive in, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. They are starting, I think, to pay attention a little bit more to sort of what people want out of a whiskey, and I think they're slowly dragging themselves more towards, maybe a craft presentation. I think we're a way off of that yet, but there's some airport exclusives. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to cover this morning unexpectedly. I got a hail at 10:30 whilst I was already out, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna have to cut this short. So I'm a little bit tired just now. Yeah, Highland Park, odd. I don't know if I'm particularly interested in trying this, to be honest. We have a regular who comes in, and she gave it a go, and her reaction was, It was very much a whiskey. I do try and stock whiskies that aren't dull. I'm consciously aware, actually, I'm going through this, and there's a lot of ones that I'm talking about that I'm like, people are just like, it's alright, I guess. So let's talk about an Abalada 9 from the 70s. This was definitely more than this was beautiful. I can't quite believe my luck with this one. For whatever reason, this bottle got ignored. It was an auction bottle. I'm not sure I have to spell that out. You can pick up these bottles at retail websites like the Whiskey Exchange. I think they charge about £300 for a bottle, like a dumpy bottle from the 70s. Oh, that's not good. Excuse me again. I paid just a little over £100 for this. I think it was 102 or something like that, which is good going for a bottle like this. You can sometimes pick up a bargain with these things. It's sometimes just not what people are chasing. But again, from a drinker's perspective, it's being able to give something a go. So I was selling this for £15.50, which is normally quite an ask. The bottle was gone within a fortnight. Because, again, it's from the 70s. Oh my God, look at it. And, all we had to do really was put the bottle under somebody's nose and be like, here, give that a whiff. And they're like, oh my God, that smells incredible. I gave this a go. It was... Something just fell over outside, I think. It was beautiful. Incredible. There's this wonderful kind of dusty book, overbrewed tea note that you get from old sherry cask whiskies. Also, I love the label, and I love the look of it. I love the bottle. I kind of love how kitsch it is with a screw cap, and how it kind of looks medieval for some reason. I don't really know why it's looking medieval, but it does, and it's committing to it. And there's a ton of information on the label, because it's from an era where people weren't talking about single malts, so they had to kind of be like, this is what you're looking at, by the way. This isn't that blended stuff. No, this is some other stuff. It was gorgeous. It was absolutely beautiful. It was too easy to drink, which is probably why the bottle did not last very long at all. We did have a problem where the cork disintegrated, so that was fun. Luckily, I'm used to having to deal with that in previous places where we've gotten auction stuff in and the cork just... I mean, this one, it literally just went... Pfft, just crumbled to dust. It was like the mummy. But after I rescued it, it was fine and lovely. So, yes. If you've had a chance to try any old Abaladas, do let me know, because they're good, aren't they? They're really nice. Oh, I've still got a few on here, so I've still got another page. So I'm going to skip through a few of these because they're not that interesting. I got a Tullibardine from a 1993 vintage, bottle about 12 years later. It was fine. Yeah. Nice, fruity, honeyed, easy drinking. Didn't cost me too much to get on the bar. Doesn't cost too much per dram. It's nice. It's a Tullibardine. Nothing wrong with it. Longbourn 14 Highland Games. This was a special bottling of Longbourn. I wanted to get some Longbourn on the bar for a while because I tried a Longbourn 18 at Diggers about 6 months ago. I believe it was because somebody on a podcast, I forget which of the whiskey podcasts because I listened to a few of them, but one of them mentioned that the Longbourn 18 is sexy stuff. And so I was like, I like sexy stuff, I'm going to try it. And they were not incorrect, it was sexy stuff. So I decided to buy a Longbourn 14 that is nothing to do with the Longbourn 18, and it's not quite sure what they were celebrating, to be honest. 250 years of the Highland Games, I think is what the celebration is. It's got this garish purple and yellow label, which I'm normally for garish, but doesn't really work. And yeah, the contents aren't anything to write home about. Next is an Auchentoshan hand-filled. This is an exciting one because it's Auchentoshan bottled, but they've left it the fuck alone for a change. The owner of the pub was going to Auchentoshan. He was getting one for his pub, and he was like, would you like one as well? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he was like, cool. It's 80 quid. It's a bit expensive. And I was like, I'm not going to tell you what I spend on whiskey sometimes. But yeah, we've had it behind the bar. Beautiful. It's full strength, 61 and a bit %, I believe it is. Oloroso cask. Oh, I want to go to Auchentoshan now and grab them by the lapels and be like, please just leave it alone. You are nailing it. Just leave it alone and bottle what you've got because you are producing some of the best whiskies in Scotland right now. And then you're sticking a load of colouring in it and watering it down and just ruining it. You're drawing bloody mustaches on the Mona Lisa. It's ridiculous. This is one of these wonderful examples of Auchentoshan just leaving it the fuck alone and basically proving my point for me. This is stunning stuff. It's a little bit pricey because, it's for the tourists and they have to bottle their own. It's part of the experience, so there's like an extra 10, 15 quid added onto the premium of the bottle, but it's still really bloody nice liquid. So actually, fine. Compared to some of the fucking... a couple of the new Ardbeg releases came out today. I forget the name of it. It was something like Ardbeg Jumping the Shark or something, because Abyss, that was it, Ardbeg Abyss. They've released that, and I remember thinking it's like, this is a commentary on the abyss they are falling into through their marketing shenanigans. And then I found out how much it costs and the stupid little container it's in, and oh my god. Oh my god. We're not here to talk about Ardbeg. The Auchentoshan, lovely. We've got a blend coming up. Leith 5 Rioja cask. It's a Rioja cask matured blend. I believe they blend the whiskey first and then stick the blend in Rioja cask. I think. It's a nice cheap blend. It's something a bit different, and people have been liking it. If they want something that's a bit unusual, we've got some pink whiskey, and they're like, tell me more, and we do. And then they drink it, and it's nice. It's a bit spicy. Not a bad thing, but it's definitely a tasting note that some people that maybe are just getting into their whiskies aren't expecting spicy, and it takes them by surprise, and it's not a bad thing. Ardent 10 Ben Nevis. I like the Ardent range. I followed them during the pandemic, and they were making decisions about their bottle and stuff, and I'm glad they went with the recycled glass. It gives it this kind of interesting cerulean green kind of a tinge. And the contents are lovely. I love a Ben Nevis. I've nailed my colours to that mast many a times. I'm still a little bit sceptical about the newer bottlings, but maybe they'll find their feet in time. This is a good Ben Nevis. Rich, cereal, quite fruity, but there's that lovely kind of grunge that I really like about Ben Nevis in it as well. It's got plenty of that. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but people that have been having it are like, oh, that's really nice. Loch Lomond Chardonnay. This was on the bar for, I think, about 4 days. It was gone before we knew it. It was a lovely, sweet wine cask finish. Loch Lomond. No notes. People loved it. Strathmill 1991 Connoisseur's Choice. Again, this one vanished. This was gone so far. I'm genuinely quite surprised that this went as fast as it did. I'm surprised there was this many Strathmill fans, to be honest. I didn't even really get any feedback from this, but people seem to be absolutely losing their minds about it. I got the bottle very reasonably. I think it was like 50 quid I paid for this or something like that. And people vibed with it. There was people coming back for seconds and stuff like that. Like, it genuinely, I think it was on the bar for like 7 days or something like that. Like a week, as we sometimes say when rounding up. People really vibed with it. I didn't have a chance to try it. We're talking about Edradour again now. So after my initial Edradour order, they were selling really well, and I was like, I'm going to buy some more Edradour. Edradour's a bit tricky to find sometimes. So I went to the Edradour website, and I bought some Edradour. So, we've had 3 bottles of the Sauterne 11-year-old on the bar in the past, and it always sells really quickly, so I bought another bottle, and sure enough, it was gone inside of a week. It's stunning. So good. Incredible. It's like ripe peaches, just honey, all day long. Those bloody barley sugar sweets, there's butterscotch in there. It's just gorgeous. It's incredible. And it sits so well with Edradour's base distillate because it's quite a savoury malt. So then you've got the sweetness, like a very sweet Sauterne going on top of that. Match made in heaven. Just 10 out of 10. And I got some straight from the casks as well. I went with wine cask finishes. So I got a Chardonnay, a Chateauneuf de Pape, and I got a single cask Côtes de Provence 16-year-old. These are all incredible. I sat down in the pub after work and I was like, I'm trying each of them. Very different. The Chateauneuf de Pape is really spicy, really rich, kind of cardamom, cubeb, pepper kind of richness. There's a very strong scent of like pencil shavings, which don't hate it, just a bit odd. The Chardonnay's a fair bit sweeter. Tend to see this with Chardonnay casks, even though it's not necessarily a sweet wine in and of itself. It's an off-dry. Tends to just make whiskey a bit sweeter. Personal findings with these. Incredible, great must notes. A bit on the schlurry side, like the white grape schlur. Bit of that coming in, but the strength of the whiskey, I think it's 60% this particular one, helps sort of allay that. You do get a bit of the savouriness from the Edradour base distillate, but not so much with this one. The Chardonnay kind of, I don't want to say dominates because that's not necessarily a good thing, but it's a very strong presence and it makes itself known. How about that? And the single cask Côtes de Provence. It's a deep ruby colour, and I was like, I need to get this on the bar. It wasn't a particularly cheap bottle, but hey, people have been loving it. It's, so good. Red currants, black currants, just all the summer fruits in there. It's got, again, kind of like a cinnamon nutmeg spice to it. It's a sweeter spice. So woody. I mean, the casks that they pick at Edradour, they're active motherfuckers. Last 2. And then we will wrap up, because this video is long now. We've got the Ardbeg Sauterne. I don't know how I feel about this one. It's a nice whiskey. And that's kind of everything I have to say about it. It's an odd one. I've tried it once so far, and I don't really know what, if anything, I think of it. And I can't explain to you why. I tried it, and I don't know if maybe I was just in a bad mood. I don't think I was. Or I was just having a rough day. Again, I don't think I was. I drank it, and I was expecting something, because Ardbeg, I mean, praise be, love a Sauterne cask as well. And I wasn't, I don't know why. It was like I wasn't reacting to it. So I don't want to say it's good or bad, because I don't think I processed it, to be honest. So I'm going to go back and give it another go at some point, because I've still got a fair bit. But yeah, it was a bit of a struggle. I mean, I drank it, it went down, but I can't talk about it. I don't know what to say about it. I don't know if anyone's ever had that, where they're just sitting down with something, they're just like, I feel like I'm not in the same room as this. It was a very odd sensation. Maybe something was going on with me, but yeah, I want to come back to that because my reaction is unique to that in that I couldn't tell you if it was good or bad. I just a very odd time was had by me. One that I have had a reaction to, however, new Glen Goin released the White Oak. Non-chill filtered, doesn't state about colour, which is bizarre because it's very pale. Very exciting thing about this is that Glen Goin have finally cottoned on something those within the know have known for a while, and that is that all bourbon cask Glen Goin is fucking delicious. I think I've said actually on this channel, actually no I haven't because I've not have I? No, I haven't. I was like, have I recorded this one? I don't think I have. But anyway, I've talked in the past about how I've tried Glen Goin bourbon casks, and they're gorgeous, and they need to start bottling their own. Well, good news. They've started bottling their own. And I don't think it's a limited edition. There's nothing on it that says it's a limited edition. I could be wrong, but I don't believe it is. It's 48%, I want to say off the top of my head. I didn't take notes on these things, I just put the list down, so I'm having to go off of memory, so I could be wrong on that one, but I think it's 48%. Jesus Christ, gorgeous. Oh, it's nice. It's buttered crumpets and strawberry jam and lovely sweet vanilla-y, gorgeous. Very good price on it as well, very affordable. There isn't an age statement, which, okay, you can't win them all, but you know what? It's bloody nice stuff, and I'm just very excited that they've actually done a bourbon cask release of Glen Goin. I know it's quite a basic release in that respect, but it's unusual for Glen Goin because they haven't really dipped their I mean, there's been like single casks and like distillery exclusive and stuff like that, but for them to do their own and it be basically an entry level, that's quite exciting. Yeah, and it takes it from being something that's an oddity. Like, they could have done, not the teapot drum, but they could have done, like, a single cask release and been like, hey, this is a bourbon cask release and charge a fortune for it, and that's not what they've done, and I've got time for that. I've got a lot of time for that, especially with a lot of distilleries at the minute throwing out special editions in fancy packaging. We're on the Ardbeg again, but that kind of nonsense, Glen Goin are doing the other side of things. And I'm keen to know what people's reaction to the new Glen Goin has been, because I've had a few folk who have tried it and they've just fallen in love with it, but I've had a few others that were kind of like, yeah, well, they shouldn't really be doing that, and I don't see why not. But anyway, that's my list. This video was long, but you can see me now, so that's exciting. I'd imagine I'm going to be seeing spots once this is all over. I'll cut this all together, see how it looks. Leave me your comments down below, any of the whiskies that I've mentioned here, if you have had a chance to give them a go. What have you had out in the wild? I'd be keen to know. For now, though, thank you very much for watching, and do join me next time, where I'll be reading something else.